Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say Hotep Habarigani to my Africana Studies colleagues and contemporaries and seekers after the truth all. And let me hasten to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I find goodbye traumatizing. I personally have always found goodbyes traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles. And we're located at 8916 South Main Street. That's 8916 South Main Street here in the city of Los Angeles, California. Zip code 9003. We're being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, of whom my good friend, the Reverend Dr. Della F. Hollandis, is the pastor. And they always say when the Baptists and the Charismatics get together, there's always going to be a shouting in the camp. So we invite you to come by and worship with us at any and all times when you're in the area, or you feel like you want to be in a good service on 11 o'clock on Sundays mornings, 10 o'clock for our Sunday school, and we start morning worship generally around 11:15. All right, thereabouts. And we'll be looking for you. We'll be happy to see your face in the place. And we know God will bless you just for the fact that you entered into the doors. So by all means, feel free to come by and worship with us. This offering that you're viewing is entitled It's Time, and it deals with the social justice aspects of our existence, which generally deals with our environmental impact and our economic exploitation. I won't say impact, even though we are affected by the economics adversely for the most part. But we continue to struggle on and pray on and trust that our God will help us to overcome the pitfalls that the society, the system may throw in our way. Thank you. And speaking about that, the economics and the environmental aspects, of course, we cannot overlook the wars that are swirling around us, and the fact that U.S. arms are being employed in two of the most devastating hot wars. Not that Yemen and Sudan and Congo are not equally as hot, but the lethality is a bit different, or a bit less. Not that war crimes are not occurring in the Congo, or war crimes are not occurring in Sudan or in Yemen, but that war crimes are definitely occurring in Israel, in Gaza, and war crimes are definitely occurring over in Ukraine. Those are indisputable facts. But before we get into those, we want to thank God for the verdict of the 12 courageous jurors in New York City, passed down yesterday, where they found Donald John Trump guilty on 34 counts, all 34 counts. He is now a convicted felon. He's in the class with the carjackers and everybody else that has committed a felony. And he says he should wear it as a badge of pride. However, I don't agree with that, because all of us are not felons, and a lot of us are not even misdemeanors, don't have a misdemeanor on our records. Not that those of us that have those things are any less a citizen of the United States, but I don't feel that in this case Donald Trump has anything to crow about, especially when he wants to equate black people with felons. You get my point. And see that and claim that as a reason for black people to vote for him. I must cringe. And as we say, as one professor said on last night, as a country, we are at a crossroads in our history. And we have lost our democracy for generations, just as we did following Reconstruction, or even before Reconstruction, when the fire eaters were fomenting secession, and when they fired on Fort Sumter, and they were going to brutally rip the United States Constitution apart and set up their own country. But they were opposed by a man who, for less of a great word, Abraham Lincoln said, "Not so fast. We are one common country, and you're going to stay in this union, and you ain't going to break it up." And the more that the Southerners tried to break it up, the more it was proven that they were not going to be allowed to break it up. As a matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln said in one of his speeches, "We're not going to break it up, and you shall not either." And he was true to his word, in that he held fast that the Union is our one common country. Before I get off on that, let me read the scripture in Ephesians chapter 6, verses 11 and 12. "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And surely we have been dealing with the principalities and powers and the rulers of the darkness of this world ever since I came into this scene. And against spiritual wickedness, Lord have mercy, in high places. One could speak about the white evangelicals who endorsed Donald Trump, the moral majority in the Christian coalition, and all of that ilk that deceived us for so long about their virtue. But now we come to find out they were not moral, they were amoral, where they were not actually immoral. And so now we are left with the consequences of their action, where the cover has been snatched off of them, and they are revealed to be the hypocrites that they were all the time. And another word, a term rather, more politely, of course, is cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is a sound that is not right, a tone that is not right. We call that cognitive dissonance. You're talking one way, but you're doing the other way. And so this is what hypocrisy is. You're saying that you're a Christian, but you're acting like you're a devil. And that sadly has been the history not only of this country but of the world for the most part. But our hypocrisy lies in the fact that we said we were a democracy, a republic and a democracy. A republic, it means that you have representative government, and the democracy means that that government is of the people, by the people, and for the people, that the people have the last say. But in this instance, what we are dealing with right now in this country is a United States Supreme Court that will not stand up to power, and they will not function as what they took an oath to uphold, the law and the Constitution. In the case of John Roberts, when he was before the Senate Nominating Committee, he said he was going to call balls and strikes. But are they calling balls and strikes? No. If they were the catcher in a baseball game, they're reaching up and holding the bat and not letting the batter swing, and then not letting the pitcher throw a good ball. So they're interfering with the, other words, smooth running of a baseball game. Even if you went with that analogy, they went with the fact that they themselves violated their rule that stare decisis. It is what it is, and that means we're not going to overthrow it. But yet, as soon as they got a majority on the Supreme Court, they overthrew Roe v. Wade under the guise of the Dobbs decision, and they came back and overthrew affirmative action. And according to them, they're not done yet. And what makes it so tellingly outrageous, what screams injustice to me, is when you have personas on the Supreme Court like Judge Alito, who has shown very glaringly that he sympathizes with the insurrectionists, and by flying the American flag upside down at his house, and flying this maple tree flag, which represents an appeal to heaven, which means that something is wrong, and but yet he's on the U.S. Supreme Court and has refused to recuse himself from hearing these cases about Donald Trump that are coming before the court. And so when you have this level of defiance, hypocritical defiance really, coming from those who sit in the seat, you can understand why Paul talks about spiritual wickedness in high places. You can't get no higher than the Supreme Court in this country. You have the legislative, you have the executive, and you have the judicial, which is the Supreme Court. And but yet these people, many of them Trump supporters, won't waste time calling their names, but of course Clarence Thomas was put on the bench by George Bush, Herbert Bush the first, and Alito was put on there by Bush, and they have held sway all of these years, and they previously had William Rehnquist and Antonin Scalia, and of course Mr. Scalia is no longer with the High Court, but these others have been joined by Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch. Those last three put on there by Donald Trump. So the Supreme Court is weighted in favor of a Donald Trump, and of course they were selected off of the list that the Heritage Foundation had drawn up, and Trump was one of the presidents who picked off of that list, and that's why you have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court at this very moment. But good news, yes, the Supreme Court lacked the moral courage or the judicial courage to say that Trump could not be qualified to vote in Colorado under the 14th Amendment, but they dodged that. They asked, why did Colorado have a right to list a voice, or the word was a voice, but to oppose a president? And so the question they should have asked was Donald Trump qualified under the 14th Amendment to hold office? But they dodged that. They went off on a tangent and decided that Colorado could not tell the rest of the nation who to vote, who to put on the ballot. Well, it wasn't, which was the bigger question, was Donald Trump, based upon the 14th Amendment, that says that anybody who having been sworn in under oath to uphold the Constitution violated that oath. Remember, this 14th Amendment was put in directly after the end of the Civil War, and but yet, and it says rather that if a person that was duly elected turned against the government and fomented insurrection, that they could not come back and be elected or hold office again. And Donald Trump did all of those things, and yet he's in line to be the Republican nominee for President of the United States again. And yet he is a convicted felon. He has not been sentenced, but he got convicted yesterday, May 30th, 2024, around 4:30 in the afternoon. And the jury came back with this verdict. And so he is the first former U.S. president to be a convicted felon. And but yet he seems unrepentant. And Trump has done many crimes and misdemeanors. And the Supreme Court has not distinguished itself as a guardian of democracy. Remember the Dred Scott case and the Plessy v. Ferguson case. And the 14th Amendment should have been solicited, and it should have been the governing principle by which the Supreme Court made its decision, but they cast the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which they were sworn to uphold behind their back. Is that right? And so we are at a crossroads in the history of American republicanism. Trump tried to corrupt the 2020 election, and he's been going around the nation talking about stop the steal, and he knew the election was fair because they got him on tape, not on tape, but on tape, admitting that the election was fair. But he wanted to create upheaval, and Trump could upend this historical experiment in American government. All right, the most dangerous thing about Trump is that he is not a one-man show. You know, it was just him in isolation, but no, he's the leader of the Republican Party, and he rules the Republican Party. You can see how Lindsey Graham shakes in his boots when he's around Donald Trump to see who's in charge. That Donald Trump is running the Republican Party. So he is in essence running the country, or that wing of the country that is Republican, because they are in lockstep. A lot of the people that are in the House of Representatives are in lockstep, are in total sympathy with Donald Trump, and that includes that bleached blonde, bad butch body that Miss Jasmine Crockett called Marjorie Taylor Greene a couple of weeks ago. And but it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene. Any of those renegades, retrogrades, House of Representative Republicans on the Republican side are very, very dangerous. They uphold insurrection. They're almost fomenting treason. And I'm thinking of Josh Hawley, Matt Gaetz, the chairman of this committee, Mr. Gomer, and I believe it's 139 people that were exposed on January 6, 2021 as being in sympathy with the people on the outside who were coming over the walls in that to try to force an insurrection, not least of whom was the president at that time, Donald John Trump, who sat on his hands until he saw that it just wasn't going to be a success, that they were not going to be able to overthrow the government. And so that's when he was finally led to release the police and call in the National Guard to put down this insurrection. And that's what he has been attempting to undo all of these years since he lost that election. He continually says the election was stolen from him. And one of the cases against him in Georgia has him on the telephone saying that we need 11,780 votes. His voice. And if they can ever get that to court, which is why he has been jumping up and down and pulling back on the reins, trying to not get a speedy trial, but no, to get a delay in trial until he can get re-elected and put out all of these DAs that are putting these cases against him and pardon all of those people that have been convicted of the insurrection on that day. It's going to be a lot of blanket pardons if he gets in. And, of course, he has said himself that he's going to be a dictator for that one day. And if he's a dictator for one day, he will be a dictator forever. You will have to commit war to get him out of office. And if he gets hold to the levers of power again, this country is gone. Remember, a lot of our law enforcement people are sympathizers with Donald John Trump. And we walk around here acting like everything is all right, but everything is not all right. We don't even have time to rejoice about the guilty verdict from yesterday, because we got to be looking forward to November 5th in order to keep this man from fulfilling what he has promised to be, a dictator for that one day. He's going to get rid, if he gets in office, he's going to throw away the rule book, and everybody that he considers his enemy is going to get a rude awakening if you sit on your hands and don't go out to vote to keep this man from getting back in office. I don't particularly care for Joe Biden, but between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I'm voting for Joe Biden. I got to have a level head and look at the facts and recognize that Joe Biden represents the greatest hope for democracy at this present time. And I don't like the fact of his war in Gaza, but I can't let that stop me from putting him back in office. Keep this Donald Trump out of there. You see, I would rather deal with a man that I disagree with on some things than a man that I disagree with on everything. Remember, Donald Trump doesn't believe in democracy. He believes in Donald Trump, individualism, in other words. And so you're going to have to reckon with all of that. You can't let your emotions run away with your common sense. All right. And that Donald Trump represents the presumption, Donald Trump represents the presumptive nominee of a political party in a two-party system. So many acts of criminality that preceded this conviction. Our present is shaped by the past, and I cannot overlook it, and you cannot overlook it. And thank God the people, those 12 people on that jury in New York that convicted him on yesterday did not overlook it, but they held up, or they stood up rather, and upheld morality, that judicial restraint or judicial constraints, and in looking at the facts, they decided that yes, this Donald Trump did pay off Stormy Daniels, and he did pay off this other woman, and he did try to hide the fact that he had done that, and that is what he was convicted of. But this conviction has so many far-reaching reverberations because when he's sentenced in July on July 11th, I think it'll be about 4 days or 5 days before the Republican convention, nominating convention. And so we have a lot on our plates, and believe me, we better be in touch with God and praying to God and asking God to help us make the right decision, and asking God to protect this country, this nation, from the evils of our own self, from spiritual wickedness in high places, from the rulers of the darkness of this world, and all of that Donald Trump represents. All right? Because, like I said, we just can't look at him. We got to look behind him. Spiritual wickedness in high places, the rulers of the darkness of this world, and whether that means the munitions manufacturers or the defense contractors who are making money hand over fist off of these many wars that are currently occurring, because every 2,000 pound bomb that Israel uses has a U.S. stamp on it. It was made over here. It was manufactured over here. Those planes, those bombs, those tanks, those bulldozers, and those bullets, those rifles, those cartridge belts, those uniforms, all of those are made over here in the United States. And sooner or later, we're going to be held up, pulled before the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice, because Israel is employing weapons that were sold to them or given to them or transferred to them by hook or by crook by the U.S. government, not just by the Biden government, but all the governments before Joe Biden, going back to 1948, after the establishment of the Jewish state on Arab land in Palestine, where the Israelis committed a Nakba, a catastrophe, or what the Jews call a Shoah, and none of that has been repented of, or has he hasn't been repented of, and the Israelis have claimed more and more land, real estate from not only in Gaza but also in the West Bank, where the settler colonialists are going in and just taking the land, just taking the houses, taking the farms, taking the businesses, and driving out the Palestinians in the dark of night and daring them to say anything. And who did they learn that from? Well, they learned that from the good old U.S. of A., who did the same thing to the American Indians when they settled the West and they took away the land. And President Andrew Jackson, they had the Trail of Tears and all of that, where they drove out the Lakota from North Dakota and marched them overland, men, women, and children, to Oklahoma. So that is what we are dealing with. But hats off to the jury for making the right decision. That's one plus for democracy, if we can just keep that going. All right? And remember, if you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, don't waste your life. Don't fall into the trap of seeking a paycheck. If they don't want to pay you what you're worth, don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We're out of here.